really wanted to bring the experts, those who do marketing for a living, because who better to teach us than knit marketing? So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Rebecca.
Thank you, Gina. As I'm pulling up my slides here, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Rebecca. I run Knit Marketing, which is, I think I forgot to share, which is a education marketing agency. We're a social enterprise. A little bit about us: we are a social enterprise. We hire high school and college students to do all things digital, and we specialize in education marketing. And in addition to the digital marketing experience, I also have worn a hat as a recruiter in many different capacities, and specifically in education recruiting for tutors and instructors and things like that. And so I know that a lot of what Gina talked about, like there's traditional methods, and sometimes you have to get your feet and hands dirty trying to find people like, hey, do you have somebody to fill this role? And getting, really into different partnerships and affiliates and things like that. And I think that can come into play with these residency programs as well. So that's just a little bit about me. You can go to the next slide.
Are you seeing the slide scroll over?
I am. Yeah, I think there might be a little bit of a delay, but yeah. So some of the traditional recruiting methods Gina did mention. If there are any that you can think about that are not listed here or that Gina didn't mention, can you go ahead and throw them in the chat? And what I kind of want to make a point about is it's not necessarily like traditional methods versus innovative methods, or that one is better than the other. But basically, when we're recruiting, we kind of have to do it all. There's sometimes the basic thing works, and sometimes it's a lot trickier to recruit, for job placements, or to recruit for residency programs or anything like that. So you kind of have to cast a wide net and kind of be doing a lot of things at the same time. So I would say that the traditional, I put in here job recruiting methods, but basically for residency programs, it would be similar because teachers are going to be looking on job boards and in traditional places as well. Yeah, so thank you, Gladys. Bulletin boards. There's lots of different EdJoin. That's a good one. Thank you. Yeah, lots of different traditional methods, which I would recommend to keep doing. And we can go on. School newsletters and websites. Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to ask you all to put on a sales and marketing cap for the remainder of this presentation. Yep, thank you, Jacqueline. And I was thinking about putting some like really intense quotes from like Boiler Room and all this stuff, but I thought we'll keep it a little bit light. But the thing that I want you to be thinking about is, like, sales reps will say, always be selling, always be closing. And I think one of the points that I'd like you to take away is to always be recruiting, that there's not necessarily a timeline. I know there are deadlines to get in applications and things like that. And so we think a little bit strategically like that, but really we need to be always recruiting. We need to be always nurturing prospects, because you never know when somebody is going to be ready to send the application. They might think that they're ready this year, but it might take them another year. And we don't want to leave them behind just because they didn't meet the deadline this time. So we want to always be nurturing those leads and pipelines. So kind of like a salesy way to put this is keep your sales pipeline full by prospecting continuously. Always have more people to see than you have time to see them. And when we talk about what Gina said, with all these different, fairs and events, that's kind of what we're talking about, having opportunities for residents, alumni, prospects to get together and always be creating an environment, whether it's virtual or in person, for you to be prospecting. We can go on. And so I want to talk about this in terms of not necessarily like 5 steps or anything that you can check off and do that's going to win the day, but basically kind of a hierarchy of recruitment marketing. We've talked about the traditional recruiting methods, which I would say keep them. They're your baseline. Always have your openings up on LinkedIn, have your openings up on all the, the job boards on EdJoin, I would say, and make sure that you're updating those on a regular basis. If the stipend changed, make sure to update that. If deadlines change, make sure to keep those things active. When I was doing education recruiting before, even though it was the same job posting for tutors all the time, we put a new listing up every single week just to make sure that they knew it was current. Because a lot of times when people are looking for jobs, and I assume residents might find these things on job boards, is they'll look, oh, this was posted 30 days ago, they're probably not recruiting anymore. So you want to keep your traditional methods and make sure to also keep them current. We can go to the next slide because I think I put in slides to go through each one of these in a little bit more detail. Yeah. So nurturing campaigns, what I mean by that are the email newsletters that you get from TRL or all the other billion things that you're subscribed to, that sometimes when you're too busy, you don't open it, but you pin it because I'm going to come back to that. And that's what we're talking about with nurturing. Can be through email, through social media, but it's not necessarily sign up here, buy this today. I'm going to give you some resources. I'm going to give you a quote. I'm going to provide you things of value, little nuggets over time that you continue to see my logo. You continue to see the name of the district. You continue to see these opportunities so that when you're at a time in your life that you're ready to apply, you remember that this is the opportunity for you. So again, just a couple notes here. It's not salesy. It's more about showing value. It's more about showing value to anybody that's consuming that content. And having in all of that, you're not being really salesy, but you also don't want to leave anybody out if they do have a question or if they are ready to apply. So you always want to have a way for the applicant or the resident to contact you or to fill out a form. You always want to have a way to capture their information so that you can continue to foster that relationship. Is there something you can share even if they don't apply? Yeah, basically kind of the same thing. Like, even if they never become one of your residents, is there something of value that you can share? Because maybe just like the story Gina shared, these things pop into other people's heads that it's not even relevant to. So can you share something of value that they might not even use, but they can forward to somebody else? So that's kind of like the step above in the hierarchy. You have your traditional methods. Now you're nurturing any of your prospects. We can go on to the next. The next thing would be any partners. And I know you guys all have tons of partners, different other districts, the schools specifically, lots of different affiliates and partners that I'm sure you're sharing their information. I'm sure they'd be happy to share yours. So keeping a list of those networks that can share when you do have, hey, deadline's approaching, or we want to make sure to get this news out. I loved the tip too about just calling local news. That's a really great tip to get this information out. And these could be in newsletters. It could be on social media, just picking up the phone and calling people, hey, I have this information. Can you share it in your newsletter, or tagging them on social media? There's lots of different ways to make sure that your affiliates and partners are always up to speed. And then Gina also did mention the kind of social media and how you can use current residents and alumni. And I think even taking that a step further and making it part of the programming. So having a way that they are constantly, consistently reporting to your program, whether it's once a month, every other week, but having some very easy way for them to submit stories, for them to submit feedback, even if it's stuff you might not necessarily want to share. It's still, like Gina said, the feedback is always really, really important. But some examples I've given in the past of ways to collect this information is just to create an email address that's just for that. It's just for capturing stories. So it could be like stories@yourdistrict.edu or residents at district, an easy inbox to capture that information, or an SMS that it's just for stories, photos, things like that. You can have an automated email that goes out that just says, hey, how was your week? We'd love you to respond to this email and tell us, how can we help? Can we share any major successes, things like that. So making it really easy for residents to report. The easiest way that a prospective resident is going to want to join a program is to see somebody that's like them in the program, see somebody that's thriving, succeeding. And so if you can find ways to capture that from your already successful resident programs that you can share to the world, whether that's through social media or email or at events, that's a really great way. Making it an assignment for coursework. And then you can offer perks for participation, like Starbucks cards or things like that. If you have, I know this depends on the size of the district and timing and budget and things like that, but even if you have an intern that has a couple extra hours a week, or you're looking for things for them to do, assigning a documentarian to go into the classrooms where you have residents, that is their task, that's their job, is to go capture these stories on a regular basis, can also be really useful. And then if you have, somebody that's creative and likes to have fun with TikToks or Reels, that could be another. You could have a channel just for your residents and all the cool things that they're doing. So this is where we're talking, like, we've done our traditional stuff, we're doing our nurturing campaigns, we're talking to our partners. Now we're reaching like a little bit higher on the hierarchy. These are much more like really, really nice to haves, not totally necessary, but really nice to haves. I'm sorry, I have my little one in the background. Oh yeah, I know, I see you, buddy. And then basically, I think the best way to market and to sell is to create a wonderful product that's worth marketing and selling. So you do the important work that you're already doing, run your amazing residency programs, and you're doing such a great job doing that. You want the residents and the alumni to be telling the story for you. So how do you do that? You create opportunities for them to get together and talk about how much they love what they're doing, for them to share, feedback back and forth, for them to share, oh my gosh, this really hilarious thing happened to me this week, or, whatever, or embarrassing moments or things like that. Just once. We're having I need gummy crisis. I need gummy worms crisis. And so, yeah, again, kind of always having ways to share testimonials, to get people talking, and then bragging about the alumni network. Like if I think about the things that I have participated in over the years, I am a Peace Corps volunteer.
I think we're all educators and work with kids and understand that necessity, Rebecca. So it is okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It was like, he was so good. And then of course I come on and yeah, I know you all understand. So thank you I appreciate the patience. But yeah, basically you want to create an environment that your alumni are excited to talk about. And I was going to say, like, the things that I, have participated in, I'm a Peace Corps volunteer. I went to USC, I went to Penn State. Like, why did I do those things? Because the alumni networks are really strong. They're they mean something. And so you want to also have ways that create, like, what does this residency program mean to the people that have gone through the program? And I think that is my last thing about the hierarchy. And then I just wanted to, I think I might have mentioned this at the beginning, but when we think about, I know we kind of calendar out our years based on the school year and final, deadlines and applications and all of these things. But what I want you to start shifting the way that you think about that, in that you're, like I said, you're always recruiting. It's not like, okay, oh yeah, shoot, it's recruitment season, we got to get that stuff on LinkedIn. Like, no, you've been nurturing these prospects all year round, and I know this is all like very like much easier said than done. So I understand there's a lot of like a lot goes into planning these things. But that would be the goal, right? When you've reached like the top of the hierarchy is when you're kind of recruiting all the time, and that these things are coming. And I see a question in here. What does your residency program mean to the people who have gone through the program? Yeah, a good question for you all to think about. And I think we have a few minutes for any questions and answers. And then I do have a question that I think you guys will have some breakout time as well after this. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions, or you can go ahead and type them in the chat.
You'll find Rebecca's information here. So if you'd like to email her, set up some time to meet with her, she's got her Calendly there.
Thank you very much, everybody. I hope this was helpful. And I do have just one little action item or question for you to think about, whether it's Jacqueline, I don't know how you are going to manage the breakout session, but if you want them to do this, or I can just leave this for after.
Sure. What was your question? They're gonna go into breakouts in a moment, but do you have the question you'd like to share?
If these, oh, okay, the slides aren't updated. That's okay. So the question is just to look at the hierarchy and kind of ask, there's two questions. One is to ask yourself where you are on there. Okay, one second. Is to look at the hierarchy and ask kind of where you are as an organization. And then the second action item to think about would be like, what's one thing that I can start doing during this season, this week, this month, to start building a nurturing campaign, or to implement some resident reporting? Like, what's one small thing that we can do as an organization to just get us a little bit higher in that hierarchy?